this video, we will be working with the puppet warp, which allows us to change poses of our subjects by repositioning their arms or legs. So the first thing we need to do is to separate the subject from the background. So I'm going to copy my background layer once by pressing Command J on the keyboard, and then I'm going to select the subject. I can press W on the keyboard to use the quick selection tool, and then under select subject I can choose cloud, detailed results, and then click onto the select subject button like this. And now I can copy this onto a new layer by pressing Command J. And then I'm going to reselect the subject by command clicking onto this new layer like this. I will then turn this layer off, select the layer below it like this, and then I can press Shift Backspace and then use Content Aware Fill. And then I can try to do this again. So if I go to Select and then Modify and then Expand, and say expand by, let's say, 150 pixels, click OK, and then press Shift and Backspace again. Now, if I deselect, I think this looks fine because I'm only concerned with the upper part of the image. Now I can turn my subject back on. Then we need to go to Edit, Puppet Warp. Then let's tick Show Mesh. It shows us the mesh that Photoshop uses to distort the subject. So if we go to density and change normal to more points, we will be working with more precision. Then you also have three different modes: normal, distort, and rigid, which you can experiment with depending on the subject. But I find for this subject, normal or rigid would work better because they would distort far areas of the image less. Expansion controls how far the pixels from the edge of the object are going to be affected. So I think for this subject, something very low like 2 or even 0 pixels would work best. And then what we need to do is we need to place some pins onto this mannequin. So I'm going to place the pins roughly along the lines of where the joints of the human body would be. And this is because I would like to lock it in place. If I don't do this, then when I try to reshape arms, for example, I may find that the rest of the body will move as well. I can now untick Show Mesh so I can have a clearer view like this. And now when I want to reshape things, I select one of the points like this, and then I can click, hold, and drag like this. Now notice as I reshape this arm, the angle of the lower arm is changing, and also the angle of the upper arm is changing as well. And this is because the rotation is set to auto. Now I could set this to fixed as well, like this, but I find that auto kind of works more intuitively. It looks more natural as you move things around. So if I change this back to auto and then click, hold, and drag up like this, what I can do is then I can fix this curvature by pressing and holding the Option key like this. So I can change the rotation. Then I click on this point. Again, click and hold Option, and then you change the rotation or the curvature of the arm like this. You may find that sometimes the transformations are not perfect, but I think things like this would be very easy to fix. So if we accepted this transformation, we could copy the background layer once again. We make a mask, we fill it with black, and then with the white brush, we just draw in these little bits that are missing. Okay, another thing we can do is if we click onto these pins again, to take a pin away, you can either press backspace or delete key on the keyboard, or you can press and hold the Option key like this, and then you take the point out. Now, if we selected this point and then we rotated this arm all the way down, just as an example, like this, you can see that the arm is going behind the body. You could also change the stacking order of the pins by clicking on these icons on top, like this. Okay, let's have a look at another example. So in this image, once again, what we need to do, we need to separate the subject from the background. So I'm going to press Command J once. Then once again, I'm going to select the subject like this. Copy the subject onto a new layer again, so Command J. Select the subject again by command clicking. Then I turn this layer off, go to the background layer. Then I want to erase the subject. So I have a blank background behind her. So I press Shift Backspace, and then I use the Content Aware Fill. Click OK. Then to fix this even further, I go to Select, Modify, Expand, and I think for this image, about 50 pixels will be fine. So I click OK. Then again, Shift Backspace, and I use the Content Aware Fill, like this. Then deselect. And once again, I'm only concerned with the upper part, so these imperfections are fine. I can even mask off these little bits to make sure that that I retain the original shadows. That's fine. And then again, I can go to Edit, Puppet Warp, and then again, I will set the density to more points, and then drop some pins along the main joints of the body to lock the body in place. And then I can reshape the legs, maybe like this. I can shift click to select multiple points, by the way. Then I can do something like this. and then tweak the shape of the body until it looks natural. For example, like this. So when I'm happy with the transition, I can just accept it. And this is the before and after.